Good evening. Good evening, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. We resume our session, and I call to order the second plenary meeting of the conference on facilitating the entry into force of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. Before we begin and take off from where we left, with item 8, I would like to inform you, as announced earlier, that as it is now 8:30, as agreed, we have closed the inscription for speakers list. And I'm informed that we have no new inscription. So the list is now officially closed. We now resume, and the first speaker on my list is the distinguished representative of Australia, Excellency Senator the Honorable Maurice Payne, Minister for Foreign Affairs and Minister for Women. Excellency, you have the floor.
Excellencies, Australia is proud of its historical and continued activism in support of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. We have advocated for a comprehensive and permanent ban on nuclear test explosions since the 1980s, and in 1996 spearheaded the adoption of the UNGA resolution to establish the Ctbto. Even before its entry into force, the Ctbt has material effect. It constrains the development and qualitative improvement of nuclear weapons, thus contributing to our shared goal of a world without nuclear weapons. Australia hosts the third largest number of facilities in the Ctbt's international monitoring system, the IMS, and contributes actively to the development of other aspects of the treaty's verification regime. Australia continues to work actively to encourage and support those states that have not yet signed or ratified the treaty to do so. The Ctbt enjoys overwhelming international support. I'm delighted that since we last met in this format, Cuba and Comoros have joined the treaty, which has now been ratified by 170 states and signed by 185. Australia places great value also on the civil and scientific benefits the Ctbt verification regime offers. For example, our region benefits from real-time tsunami warnings that rely on data from IMS stations. Despite all these benefits, we cannot all enjoy the full promise of the treaty until its entry into force. Australia continues to encourage all states, particularly the so-called Annex II states, to ratify the treaty as soon as possible. We stand by to assist in any way we can. We're all looking forward to the 10th Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty Review Conference next year. We must take up the opportunity the RevCon provides and live up to the promise of the NPT to set a path forward for practical efforts to advance nuclear non-proliferation. Let us work together to bring the Ctbt into force and solidify the path towards a world free of nuclear weapons.
I thank the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Australia for her statement. I now invite the distinguished delegate of North Macedonia, Her Excellency Buja Osmani, Minister of Foreign Affairs. You have the floor. Excellency, you have the floor.
Distinguished co-presidents, Mr. Secretary General, dear colleagues, I would like to inform that we have aligned to the statement delivered by High Representative Josep Borrell on behalf of the European Union. At the outset, I congratulate Italy and South Africa for assuming the co-presidency of the Article 14 conference and express our full support for their future work, and to thank the previous co-presidency, Algeria and Germany. Furthermore, I commend the Executive Secretary and his staff for their continued and tireless efforts in promoting the entry into force of the treaty, its visibility, and universal adherence, as well as strengthening the treaty's verification regime. I extend my compliments to Dr. Robert Floyd on his appointment as the Executive Secretary of the Ctbto organization and wish him every success in carrying out this important duty. Let me begin by reiterating our firm belief that Ctbto represents one of the backbones of the international system of disarmament and non-proliferation, contributing to global peace and security. My country became a state party to the Ctbto 21 years ago, and since then, we have supported all efforts aimed at making it fully operational as one of the pillars of nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation. North Macedonia has demonstrated its commitment to the universalization of the Ctbto and has been a staunch advocate of its entry into force. In this light, we warmly welcome the additional signatory and ratifications, thus bringing the treaty up to 185 signatories and 170 ratifications. Furthermore, all states should maintain the existing moratoria on nuclear weapon, text explosions, and other nuclear explosions, and refrain from conducting any action contrary to the objectives and purpose of the treaty. We are pleased to note the progress achieved after the establishment of the international monitoring system, with the current 337 certified monitoring facilities, the functioning of the state-of-the-art international data center, and the steady progress in on-site inspection capabilities, including through integrated field exercises. We also welcome all efforts for active promotion of the Ctbto with civil society and the work of the Ctbto youth group. The same goes for the promotion of the possibilities to use the IMS data for civil and scientific activities. Let me also acknowledge the humanitarian benefits from application of the international monitoring system in regard to natural disasters, and to underline the necessity of sharing the benefits among states. In closing, let me assure you that my country remains fully committed to fulfilling its obligations arising from the treaty and to its universal adherence, and therefore strongly support the 2021 Ministerial Declaration. Thank you.
I thank the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of North Macedonia for his statement. I will now take this opportunity to give the floor to the distinguished representative of Norway, Excellency Ms. Erin Eriksen Søreide, Minister of Foreign Affairs. Madam, you have the floor.
Mr. Secretary General, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty has been a centerpiece of the global arms control and non-proliferation regime since its adoption here by the General Assembly 25 years ago. Although the treaty has still not entered into force, it has established an important norm against nuclear tests. It remains imperative that we stand up for the international laws, norms, and standards that are essential for ensuring stability and peace. But a norm or a self-imposed moratorium on nuclear testing can never be a substitute for a comprehensive, universally binding legal agreement. We urge the states listed in Annex 2 to ratify the treaty now. Mr. Secretary General, we are gravely worried about the DPRK's publicly stated intentions and continued efforts to develop weapons of mass destruction. We urge the DPRK to abandon its nuclear and ballistic programs in a complete, verifiable, and irreversible manner, as requested by several UN Security Council resolutions. We also urge the DPRK to recommit to meaningful negotiations towards this end. Mr. Secretary General, Norway welcomes the appointment of Dr. Robert Floyd as Executive Secretary of the Ctbto. I wish him the best of luck in leading the efforts to ensure that the verification regime of the treaty will be operational upon the treaty's entry into force. I assure him of Norway's full cooperation in this regard. Norway has fulfilled our responsibilities under the international monitoring system. There are 6 monitoring stations on Norwegian territory, all of which have been certified to comply with all technical requirements and specifications. These stations are transmitting their data continuously to the International Data Center of the Ctbto in Vienna. Norway also continues to contribute financially to Ctbt capacity building, including training courses for developing countries. Mr. Secretary General, Norway will continue to work hard to strengthen established non-proliferation regimes and uphold international norms and laws. We will continue to take initiatives that deliver concrete results and that lead to further disarmament and ultimately to our common goal of a world without nuclear weapons. Ensuring that the Ctbt enters into force would be a significant step towards achieving that goal. Thank you.
I thank the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Norway for a statement. I now invite the Minister, the distinguished representative of Montenegro, His Excellency Todor Radolovic, Minister of Foreign Affairs. Excellency, the floor is yours.
Dear Ministers, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in the year in which we commemorate the 25th anniversary of the opening for the signature of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, we can confidently say that the Ctbt has reaffirmed its worth as a core pillar that underpins the global nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation regime. This anniversary is an opportunity for a certain reflection of main achievements of the organization, not as a customary manner, but above all, as a reminder that without the lasting and legally binding effect of entering into the force of the treaty, peace and stability will be in danger. The Ctbt has come up near to the universal adherence. However, we still need ratifications by remaining countries listed in Annex II to the treaty. This stalemate must be overcome. This is why we should use this momentum as a robust reminder of unfinished business and a pledge to dedicate ourselves individually and jointly to move forward in transforming the nuclear test ban in a legal reality. We are strongly committed to the objectives of the Ctbt, to its entry into force and universalization, and to strengthening the Ctbto verification regime. Montenegro particularly welcomes the results of the international monitoring system and the International Data Center, which have proven as reliable and helpful mechanisms in raising preparedness for natural disasters, enabling a timely response and better protects of the lives of civilians globally. We applaud all the Ctbto achievements over the years. I would like to reiterate that Montenegro stands ready to contribute to the further joint efforts to address the threats of nuclear weapons and make the world a safer place to our children. We will continue to act proactively towards our common goal, the universalization of membership, the entry into force of the treaty, and ultimately the complete elimination of nuclear tests. Thank you.
I thank the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Montenegro for his statement. I would now like to give the floor to the distinguished representative of France, His Excellency Jean-Yves Le Drian, Minister of Europe and Foreign Affairs. Excellency, you have the floor.
Mesdames et messieurs,
Ladies and gentlemen, 25 years ago, our predecessors took up the challenge of bringing states together through a treaty which sought to prohibit nuclear tests and which forged a permanent and constructive link with the 5 nuclear weapon states. To date, 185 states have signed the Ctbt and 170 have ratified it. The resources of the Provisional Technical Secretariat are now fully operational. Completing and maintaining the international monitoring system, a genuine cornerstone of the verification regime, remains a priority. And while the number of natural disasters is multiplying, the Ctbto's monitoring system makes a significant contribution to combating the effects of climate change. It does so through the tsunami alert system, which France unreservedly supports. France was one of the first states to ratify this treaty, and since then our commitment to the Ctbt has been demonstrated through robust and concrete actions. In 1998, France dismantled definitively and transparently its nuclear test site in French Polynesia in partnership with the IAEA and the Ctbto. Today, it's worth noting that our country is unique in having done so. We have significantly reduced our nuclear arsenal and definitively ceased the production of plutonium and uranium for military purposes. Initiating the negotiation of a treaty prohibiting the production of fissile material for weapons, a vital complement to the Ctbt, is a priority for France, in particular within the P5. Also, France is making a significant contribution to the international monitoring system. 16 stations located on its territory, 8 stations located abroad, and 1 radionuclide laboratory certified by the Ctbto are operated by France. With the certification of station IS-25 in Guadeloupe in 2021, France now fulfills all its commitments under the treaty. The mandate of the Article 14 conference is clear: facilitating entry into force of the treaty. The North Korean nuclear tests remind us of the urgent need to do so. The unilateral announcement by the Democratic People's Republic of Korea of the end of its moratorium on tests show that serious threats to international peace and security remain. 8 so-called Annex II states are missing, and yet, without them, the Ctbt cannot enter into force. This requirement is what makes our treaty strong. That's why France co-sponsored Resolution 2310, which urges all states who have not yet done so to sign and ratify the Ctbt. This unequivocal appeal from the Security Council must not go unheard. That is what I wanted to say on behalf of France, which calls on all states to preserve and universalize the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. Moreover, we align ourselves fully with the statement delivered by the High Representative of the European Union. Lastly, I wish to thank Mr. Lizina Zerbo for his committed action in favour of the universalisation of the treaty, and I wish Mr. Robert Floyd every success. Mr. Executive Secretary of the Ctbto, rest assured that we are determined to pursue our cooperation with the Technical Secretariat. Thank you.
I thank the Minister for Europe and Foreign Affairs of France for his statement, and I would now like to give the floor to the distinguished representative of Ireland, Mr. Simon Conveyini, Minister for Foreign Affairs and Minister for Defence. Excellency, you have the floor.
Co-chairs, Executive Secretary, distinguished delegates. This year marks the 25th anniversary of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, a milestone Ireland will also mark at the Security Council next week. Ireland is a strong supporter of the treaty. The Ctbt is a vital part of the international disarmament and non-proliferation architecture and an important step towards a world free of nuclear weapons. After 25 years, it is past time for the Ctbt to enter into force. Ireland continues to call individually on all 8 remaining Annex II states to demonstrate leadership and join the Ctbt without delay. While it can never be a substitute for entry into force, Ireland calls for strict observance of the global moratorium on nuclear weapons testing. We sadly know all too well the enduring damage that nuclear testing has caused over generations to human health and the environment. In the midst of the unprecedented global public health crisis, it would be unconscionable to consider ever undertaking such testing again. Ireland strongly condemns the testing of nuclear weapons by the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, the only breach this century of the international norm against testing. These tests, in flagrant violation of UN Security Council resolutions, are a threat to international peace and security. We call for DPRK's immediate signature and ratification of the Ctbt, as well as a return to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty and full cooperation with the International Atomic Energy Agency. Though there is still much progress to be made, the last 25 years have also brought a number of positive developments. the establishment of the comprehensive global verification regime has delivered important practical benefits, not only in detecting nuclear tests, but also civilian applications. I wish to express my appreciation to the Preparatory Commission of the Ctbt organization for the extensive work to prepare for the full implementation of the treaty. I assure you that Ireland will continue to advocate strongly for the entry into force and universalization of Ctbt.
I thank the Minister for Foreign Affairs and Minister for Defense of Ireland for his statement. And now I would like to give the floor to the distinguished representative of Bulgaria, Excellency Svetan Stuev, Minister of Foreign Affairs. Excellency, you have the floor.
Distinguished co-presidents, let me begin by congratulating Italy and South Africa on assuming the presidency of the 12th Conference and facilitating the entry into force of the Ctbt, and express our appreciation for the work carried out by Germany and Algeria as previous Article 14 coordinators. I would like also to congratulate Dr. Robert Floyd on his appointment as the Executive Secretary of the Ctbto and wish him every success in his future endeavors. I assure you of Bulgaria's full support for achieving a successful outcome to this meeting. Bulgaria fully associates with the statement delivered on behalf of the EU. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, facing its 25th anniversary, the Ctbt proved to be one of the most important pillars of the international nuclear, non-proliferation and disarmament regime. It has come a long way and achieved important successes. Not only has it resulted in the establishment of an effective and highly respected international monitoring system, but it has also acquired near universal support, creating a norm of nuclear testing taboo adhered to by almost all states. In that regard, we commend the work of the Ctbto Preparatory Commission and its Provisional Technical Secretariat, the organization's expertise, and all its activities as an important contribution to global peace and security. Yet, 25 years after the Ctbt was opened for signature, efforts are still needed in order to bring the treaty into force. As a country from Annex II that has signed and ratified the treaty, Bulgaria continuously calls upon all states, and in particular Annex II states who have not done so yet, to sign and ratify the Ctbt at their earliest opportunity. Bulgaria strongly believes that once in force, the Ctbt will provide a legally binding global ban on nuclear explosions of any kind. This will be a crucial advancement of the noble goals of nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation. Although some countries are applying a de facto moratorium on nuclear test explosions, we call upon all states to refrain from actions that would undermine the treaty's crucial role in prohibiting any nuclear test explosions pending its entry into force. We urge DPRK to sign and ratify the Ctbt without any delay and abandon its nuclear and ballistic missile programs. The DPRK has to take concrete actions on the complete, irreversible, and verifiable denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula and to comply with its obligations under all relevant UN Security Council resolutions. Bulgaria remains strongly committed to pursuing the objectives of the Ctbt. In that regard, we are encouraged by the effective work of the Ctbto Preparatory Commission, the Provisional Technical Secretariat, and the International Data Center on keeping the Ctbt verification regime functioning even in the time of a global pandemic. Thank you.
I thank the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Bulgaria for his statement. Now I would like to give the floor to the distinguished representative of Luxembourg, Excellency Jean Asselborn, Minister of Foreign Affairs and European Affairs. Excellency, you have the floor.
Messieurs les co-présidents,
Co-presidents, ministers, excellencies, dear colleagues, Luxembourg fully associates itself with the statement delivered by Mr. Josep Borrell on behalf of the European Union. Given the international security environment, I wish to make a few additional comments in a national capacity. I warmly welcome the new Executive Secretary of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Organization, Dr. Robert Floyd, upon his election, and I wish him every success in his new duties, as well as in promoting the entry into force of and universal adherence to the treaty. I wish also to commend the Provisional Technical Secretariat on the manner in which it has succeeded in ensuring the proper functioning of the international verification regime, in spite of the difficulties related to managing the pandemic that we've been living through over the past year and a half. This year we are celebrating the 25th anniversary of the treaty's opening for signature and its role as a model for scientific inclusion and cooperation. Nevertheless, we must acknowledge that over the past quarter of a century, we have as yet been unable to achieve the entry into force of this instrument, which is nevertheless essential. Here I wish to make an appeal to the 8 Annex II states, which have not yet ratified the treaty, namely the US, China, Israel, Egypt, Iran, India, Pakistan, and North Korea, to make every effort needed to allow for the entry into force of this treaty. This here is the cornerstone of the efforts of the 185 signatory states seeking to advance towards a world free of nuclear weapons. In this regard, I wish to recall the adoption of Security Council Resolution 2310, which reaffirms the urgency and vital importance of the entry into force of the Ctbt. Allow me to stress that this resolution is binding for all UN member states. I should like to point out the outstanding work carried out by the Provisional Technical Secretariat, firstly under the leadership of Dr. Zerbo and then Dr. Floyd. Thanks to their commitment, each nuclear test around the world can be detected and brought to the attention of the international community. Here, I wish to express our grave concern regarding North Korea, which is continuing to develop its nuclear program in clear violation of UN Security Council resolutions. I wish to reiterate my appeal to North Korea to engage in constructive and good faith discussions with all concerned parties and to commit itself to a credible path towards complete, verifiable and irreversible denuclearization. The capabilities and precision of the treaty's verification regime cannot be overstated. It is the only tool able to prevent nuclear tests. Luxembourg will continue to fully support the preparatory commission of the Ctbto to implement all parts of the verification regime. Moreover, given the climatic changes we are experiencing, the International Monitoring System and the International Data Center have proven their ability to improve tsunami warning systems, as well as other natural disaster warning systems. By way of conclusion, I wish to say how pleased I am with the transnational cooperation between Ctbt national data centers and scientists within Benelux. This cooperation, set up in 2019, is the first of its kind. I hope that this partnership will serve as inspiration for others to engage in regional cooperation around the world. Thank you for your attention.
I thank the Minister of Foreign and European Affairs of Luxembourg for his statement, and now I would like to give the floor to the distinguished representative of Kazakhstan, Excellency Mukhtar Bedi, Minister of Foreign Affairs. Excellency, you have the floor.
Distinguished co-presidents, ministers, excellencies, and delegates. First of all, I thank the co-presidents of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, Article 14 Conference, for their efforts to facilitate the entry into force of the treaty. I also commend Dr. Robert Floyd, the Ctbto Executive Secretary, and the Ctbto staff for their tireless work in promoting the universalization of the treaty. Ladies and gentlemen, now 25 years since the opening for signature, Ctbt remains a key pillar of the nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation regime. As you know, Kazakhstan made a historic decision to stop nuclear weapon testing at Semipalatinsk in 1991. We have particularly proud that this decision sent a strong political message to the international community and contributed to promoting the international efforts that lead to the Ctbt 5 years later. First President of Kazakhstan, Nursultan Nazarbayev, signed the decree to shut down the Semipalatinsk test site on August 29. In 2009, this day was anonymously proclaimed by the UN General Assembly as the International Day Against Nuclear Tests. Dear colleagues, today's conference is an excellent opportunity to renew our strong call for concrete and coordinated actions. My country has worked very closely with the preparatory commission of the first ever integrated field exercise in 2008 and as a co-chair for the Article 14 conference in 2015-2017. Kazakhstan is also currently chairing Working Group B and implementing a number of other joint projects. One such initiative is the first ever joint meeting of the youth group and of the group of eminent persons in 2018 in Kazakhstan. We are convinced that the world leaders need to take concrete action to advance nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation efforts. As we gather together to discuss the way forward, let me suggest to consider the following steps. First, it's necessary to establish and expand nuclear weapon-free zones in as many regions as possible. In September 2006, in Semipalatinsk, Kazakhstan and 4 our neighbors signed the treaty on a nuclear weapon-free zone in Central Asia. This nuclear weapon-free zone was the first to be located in the Northern Hemisphere. To mark its 15th anniversary, ministers of foreign affairs of 5 Central Asia countries have recently issued a joint statement. They stressed the need for strengthening the disarmament process and nuclear non-proliferation regime, promoting regional and international peace and security, as well as expanding cooperation in the field of peaceful use of atomic energy. Second, we must take advantage of Treaty on Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. As you know, this is the first ever multilateral legally binding agreement to ban the development, stockpiling, and use of nuclear weapons. Its entry into force earlier this year highlighted our collective hope for a world free of nuclear weapons. We need to jointly turn it into a practical instrument which meets all our hopes about nuclear weapon-free world. Third, we must also end nuclear weapons testing once and for all. This can only happen through the full ratification and compliance of the Ctbt by 8 remaining Annex II states. In other words, the treaty is totally undermined without unanimous support from all participating nations. Kazakhstan joins the majority of member states in urging remaining states to ratify the treaty without delay and without any preconditions. Distinguished colleagues, I would like to stress that Kazakhstan will continue our tangible contribution to strengthening security agreements as well as disarmament objectives and mechanisms regionally and globally. It's my sincere hope that we will soon have opportunity to get together in person to discuss our common goals and challenges. I wish you good luck and best of success in your future endeavors. Thank you.
I thank the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Kazakhstan for his statement. And now I would like to give the floor to the distinguished representative of Azerbaijan, His Excellency Mr. Jayan Bayramonov, Minister of Foreign Affairs. Excellency, you have the floor.
Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Republic of Azerbaijan, I would like to express our congratulations to His Excellency, Mr. Robert Floyd, on his recent election to the position of Executive Secretary of the Preparatory Commission for Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Organization, and support the efforts of the Provisional Technical Secretariat aimed at early entry into force of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty and in ensuring the effectiveness of the Ctbto activities. I would also extend my gratitude to the presidents of the conference for their dedicated work in facilitating the preparations for this important conference. As a country strongly supporting the efforts aimed at achieving the goal of nuclear weapons-free world, Azerbaijan remains committed to the goals and objectives of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. We are of the view that Ctbt represents the significant breakthrough in the long-standing international efforts to curb the qualitative improvement of nuclear stockpiles and the development of new types of nuclear weapons. Despite the aspiration to achieve early entry into force of the treaty, which has been so clearly expressed by the international community on numerous occasions, more efforts should be dedicated to ensure the universality of Ctbt and worldwide nuclear security. We once again call on all remaining Annex II states that have yet to ratify the treaty spare no effort to do so. We appreciate the efforts undertaken so far by the Preparatory Commission and the PTS on the implementation of treaty clauses, in particular on the establishment of international monitoring system, on-site inspection elements, and international data center in Vienna. In addition to this primary function, the treaty verification systems brings scientific and civil benefits, including disaster alert systems through civil and scientific applications of waveform and radionuclide technologies and use of the data. We are encouraged that the Ctbt verification regime has demonstrated its utility in providing accurate, real-time data relating to major natural disasters, earthquakes, tsunamis, and nuclear accidents, as well as other civil scientific applications to all state signatories. Since the data accumulated in international data center could be used for the civil and scientific purposes, it is important to seek ways to ensure that those capabilities will be broadly benefited by the international community. Robust monitoring and verification system may also bring other benefits, including deterring some malign actors from launching dual-use ballistic missiles against residential areas and civilian infrastructure, as Armenia did against Azerbaijan in October-November 2020, which caused numerous human and material losses. Training activities, workshops, and rendering assistance provided by Provisional Technical Secretariat to signatory states are instrumental for advancing their capability to ensure the effective implementation of the treaty clauses. In the light of aforementioned, we express our gratitude for the technical assistance provided within the framework of capacity building program launched by the PTS that ensured the provision of relevant basic equipment and technologies for national data center established by Geology Institute of the Academy of Sciences of Azerbaijan. While this assistance significantly contributed to the capabilities of the national data center in Azerbaijan, we need to do more to revitalize the activity and operation and receive more capacity building assistance for the national data center. Azerbaijan is interested in further strengthening of national capacities, especially through receiving state-of-the-art technologies and expanding of training opportunities for specialists on verification technologies and other areas of activities of the Ctbto. We are looking forward to expand our productive cooperation with the Technical Secretariat in the coming years. Thank you.
I thank the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Azerbaijan for his statement. I would like to give the floor to the distinguished representative of Chile, Excellency Mr. Andreas Almand Zavala, Minister of Foreign Affairs. Excellency, you have the floor.
The existence of nuclear weapons is perhaps one of the most significant threats faced by the international community. While the Non-Proliferation Treaty was a step forward, we must go further towards the total prohibition of nuclear weapons. Chile is very strongly committed to this cause. We have participated as a full member of the Conference on Disarmament. In addition, we have signed the Treaty of Tlatelolco, which was the first treaty to establish a nuclear weapons-free zone. Now we are going one step further. At the end of August, the Chilean Congress ratified the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. Chile's commitment to peace is stronger than ever.
I thank the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Chile for his statement. I would now like to give the floor to the distinguished representative of Iraq, Excellency Fouad Hossein, Minister of Foreign Affairs. Excellency, you have the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, first allow me to congratulate the Executive Secretary, Dr. Robert Floyd, upon his election as Executive Secretary of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Organization. We are very confident that thanks to his experience, new ideas will be presented to participate in the development of the work of the Preparatory Commission. Similarly, we'd like to thank Algeria and Germany for their efforts while co-presiding the 11th Conference on facilitating the entry into force of the Ctbt. We firmly believe that this conference reflects the commitment of the international community to speeding up the entry into force of the Ctbt while we are celebrating the 25th anniversary of its opening up for signature. The government of the Republic of Iraq attaches much importance to strengthening the non-proliferation regime and the nuclear disarmament regime. We are very pleased to be taking part in this very important meeting, which is held every 2 years in the sidelines of the high-level week of the General Assembly. We were very pleased to be able to preside over the proceedings of the 10th Conference on facilitating entry into force of the Ctbt with Belgium from the period 2017-2019. This shows that Iraq is ready to support all regional and international efforts towards complete and general disarmament to strengthen international peace and security, among other things. Similarly, we urge all to engage in efforts to fight against terrorism and to eradicate terrorism, in particular Daesh. Without a doubt, the Iraqi government ratified the treaty on 26 September 2013. This stemmed from the conviction as per which it is crucial to pursue the universalization of international multilateral and bilateral agreements and to bring about a world free of nuclear weapons and weapons of mass destruction. That is indeed a priority because these weapons pose a severe, destructive, and dangerous threat to the environment and to humankind. Ladies and gentlemen, the Ctbto becomes ever more important from day to day. It is therefore crucial to work seriously and swiftly to speed up the entry into force of the treaty through the ratification by the remaining 8 Annex II states in order to definitively stop all nuclear tests and eliminate any threat and danger stemming from these tests. This could contribute to creating a world free of nuclear weapons. Here, the Iraqi delegation calls on all states to continue their nuclear moratoriums because nuclear tests represent a major violation of Security Council resolutions in this area. They also pose a threat to regional and international peace and security and have harmful ramifications for the non-proliferation regime. The entry into force of the treaty would give the treaty legally binding effect on top of the moral and political responsibilities which it would bring about to strengthen the nuclear non-proliferation regime. This would add to efforts seeking to create nuclear weapon-free zones and WMD-free zones. Including the establishment of such a zone in the Middle East. With this in mind, the Iraqi government firmly supports all UN Security Council resolutions in this area, in particular Resolution 2210 of 2010, which focused on the crucial importance and the urgent necessity of accelerating the entry into force of the Ctbto. Ladies and gentlemen, terrorist groups could acquire nuclear weapons and nuclear material for the production of nuclear weapons and other weapons of mass destruction. This is one of the most severe threats to international security. Nuclear security measures are crucial to prevent nuclear material from falling into the hands of terrorist groups or other unauthorized persons. In this context, the Iraqi government would like to reaffirm the importance of investing ever more efforts to definitively and totally getting rid of nuclear weapons and weapons of mass destruction in order to achieve a world free of weapons of mass destruction so as to secure a safer future for us and future generations. This requires efforts on the part of all to achieve these goals. By way of conclusion, I would like to focus on the fact that our government stands ready to cooperate and coordinate to reach a final document for this meeting to cater for the concerns of all states parties. We will continue our work with the international community to consolidate efforts seeking to accelerate the entry into force of the treaty. Thank you for your attention. May the peace of God be with you.
I thank the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Iraq for his statement. Now I'd like to give the floor to the distinguished representative of the Gambia, Excellency Sheikh Omar Faye, Minister of Defense. Excellency, you have the floor.
Distinguished co-presidents, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the Gambia would like to congratulate Italy and South Africa for assuming the presidency of the 12th Article 14 Conference on facilitating the entry into force of the Ctbto. We assure your excellencies of our support and cooperation in fulfilling your mandate. We thank the Secretary General for convening this conference, as well as express our appreciation to all state signatories for their presence in this very important meeting. The Gambia would like to register its special felicitations to our brother, Dr. Lassina Zabo, for his exceptional service to the Ctbto. We commend him and his team for the dedication towards promoting the entry into force of the Ctbto, achieving universalism and adherence to the non-proliferation agenda. We also wish to congratulate Dr. Rob Floyd on his appointment as Executive Secretary of the Provisional Technical Secretariat of the Preparatory Commission and assure him of our support. Co-presidents, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we stress our support to the final declaration adopted by this meeting and welcome the reaffirmations and measures outlined therein. The Gambia considers this conference an opportunity to reaffirm its commitment to the Ctbto and towards the achievement of the objectives of universalism, nuclear disarmament, and non-proliferation set 25 years ago with the opening for signature of this treaty. The Gambia signed the Ctbto on 9th April 2003. We are happy to inform this conference that the National Assembly of the Gambia has ratified the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, and administrative arrangements are currently being made to prepare and deposit the instruments of ratification with the United Nations Secretary General. We are cognizant of the fact that one more state ratifying the treaty is a positive step towards achieving universalism. However, to ensure its entry into force, we encourage states that are yet to sign and/or ratify the treaty to do so, especially Annex II states. The need to progress with the entry into force of the Ctbto is even more important now, as the Ctbto verification regime and other mechanisms are not only a means of ensuring adherence to a rule-based international system, but most importantly, as a significant contributor to the elimination of threats to global peace and security. We therefore call on all states to increase the political momentum and work with the PTS towards the entry into force of the treaty. Co-presidents, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the Gambia wishes to take this opportunity to register its appreciation to the Provisional Technical Secretariat of the Preparatory Commission for working tirelessly towards increasing the capacity of state signatories on the various issues that fall within the scope of work of the Preparatory Commission of the Ctbto. Such training programs are crucial to small states such as ours. The Gambia's outlook on global nuclear non-proliferation and disarmament is with a lens of positivity, recognizing that despite the challenges of the entry into force of the Ctbto, significant achievements have been registered. We must therefore proceed with the optimistic view that all efforts, including those outlined in the adopted declaration, will soon lead to the attainment of these objectives of the Ctbto. I thank you all for your kind attention.
I thank the Minister of Defense of the Gambia for his statement. And now I would like to give the floor to the distinguished representative of New Zealand, His Excellency Phil Twyford, Minister for Disarmament and Arms Control. Excellency, you have the floor.
Kia ora. It's a pleasure to join you from Auckland as the world comes together to mark the 25th anniversary of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty and urge its entry into force. 25 years is a significant milestone. It's an opportunity to underscore the international community's total rejection of nuclear testing. But the fact that we're still celebrating the treaty's adoption and not its entry into force should challenge us to reflect seriously on the work we have ahead of us. The international community adopted this treaty in 1996. At the time, it was a statement of our shared determination to end nuclear testing and to advance towards a world free of nuclear weapons. The Ctbto was an essential element of the indefinite extension of the NPT in 1995, and its early entry into force was recognised at the 2000 Review Conference as the first of 13 practical steps towards nuclear disarmament. The success of the treaty's international monitoring system, too, is testament to our collective determination to bring the treaty's aims to fruition. But 25 years after the treaty was adopted, we are still discussing how we could achieve entry into force. An overwhelming majority of the world's countries, 170 in fact, have signed and ratified the treaty. The trouble is that the 8 of those countries that the world needs to sign and ratify have not. New Zealand calls on India, North Korea, and Pakistan to sign and ratify the treaty. And we call on China, Egypt, Iran, Israel, and the United States to ratify it. New Zealand is firmly committed to a world without nuclear weapons, and we've always regarded the treaty as a vital component of global nuclear disarmament. A formative experience for New Zealand was witnessing the devastating impacts of nuclear testing in the Pacific. For 5 decades, France, the United States, and the United Kingdom conducted more than 300 nuclear tests across the Pacific, far from their own countries. The legacy of these tests is still being felt by the people of the Pacific. The tests forcibly removed them from their lands, dislocated their communities, and poisoned their ecosystems. Today, New Zealand stands with Pacific governments demanding justice. The threat of nuclear weapons is even more urgent today than it was when our treaty first opened for signature a quarter century ago. In advance of the 50th anniversary NPT Review Conference early next year, New Zealand calls on those 8 holdout states to ratify with urgency and to join the people of the rest of the world on the right side of history. Thank you.
I thank the Minister of Disarmament and Arms Control of New Zealand for his statement, and now give the floor to the distinguished representative of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, Excellency James Cleverly, Minister of States at Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office. Excellency, you have the floor.
Co-presidents and colleagues, I am honoured to represent the UK, and I thank Italy and South Africa for bringing us together today. The UK would like to reaffirm its strong support for the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty and for the organisation that underpins it. We welcome this opportunity to garner support for the treaty's entry into force, which we have advocated for 25 years. Our goal is very simple: to bring an end to nuclear weapons test explosions anywhere on the planet. I therefore welcome the ratification by Cuba and the Union of Comoros since the last conference, and I call on the remaining Annex II states to sign or ratify the treaty. The UK condemns the Democratic People's Republic of Korea's continued development of illegal nuclear and ballistic missile programs. We call for the complete, verifiable, and irreversible denuclearization of North Korea. I know I speak for many of us when I urge the country to resume dialogue with the international community. We call on the Democratic People's Republic of Korea to sign and ratify the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. Though entry into force has not yet become a reality, we should be clear how much the treaty organization delivers. It makes it extremely difficult for would-be proliferators. And with a verification regime over 90% complete, it not only detects explosions, but also natural disasters. It contributes to tsunami early warning detection and measures the impact of climate change. I congratulate Dr. Robert Floyd on his recent appointment as Executive Secretary to the Ctbto. We look forward to working with you and to progress entry into force and strengthen the verification system as the treaty turns 25. We will raise those benefits at the NPT review conference when that is able to proceed. The UK is an enthusiastic participant in all of the organisation's work. We are a vocal campaigner in multilateral forums and one of the largest contributors, providing over £4.5 million annually. We give technical and political support to the Preparatory Commission and host 13 facilities that support the international monitoring system. Co-presidents, I can conclude by welcoming the assessed contributions and urge states yet to pay to do so. It is our collective responsibility to sustain the organisation and promote the treaty's entry into force as a step towards our shared goal, a world without nuclear weapons.
I thank the Minister of State at the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland for his statement. And I would like to give the floor to the distinguished representative of Panama, Her Excellency Ana Luisa Castro, Vice Minister of Multilateral Affairs and Cooperation. Excellency, you have the floor.
Quiero dar inicio haciendo.
I would like to begin by conveying our recognition to the outgoing co-presidents of Algeria and Germany for the excellent work they undertook, and we would like to wish every success to the new co-presidents, Excellency Alessandro Cortese, Ambassador and Permanent Representative of Italy, and Excellency Rapulani Sidi Molekani, Ambassador and Permanent Representative of South Africa. The conference that brings us here today is a special one as we mark the 25th anniversary of the opening for signing of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. The CTBT is a fundamental piece of the international security and disarmament and nuclear non-proliferation global architecture. Distinguished co-presidents, Panama reiterates its commitment to peace and international security and efforts to achieve a world free of nuclear weapons. We join those who reject the use of nuclear weapons, the harmful effects of which on the environment and humanity as a result of the radioactivity of nuclear explosions are passed on from generation to generation. In this context and in the multilateral sphere, states must use our good offices to ensure the entry into force of this treaty and its universalization. These need to be established as decisive steps to preserve the credibility of the non-proliferation system and as a legal mechanism which aims to safeguard human beings and the environment. Ballistic missile tests and nuclear tests represent the greatest challenge to international peace and security that the UN currently faces. That is why achieving universality of this treaty continues to be an essential pathway towards establishing a robust and stable international framework that contributes to us achieving our common objective, nuclear disarmament. In spite of the fact the treaty has not entered into force, its international monitoring system is a fundamental instrument which, in real time, has played an essential role in detecting any nuclear testing. It also offers valuable data and scientific information to member states. The Republic of Panama joined the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty in 1998. Panama contributes to the work of the organization through its station ORN-50, which was recently updated and optimized and forms part of the International Monitoring System network, which aims to have more than 321 monitoring stations and 16 radionuclide laboratories. Without security and without peace, it's impossible to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals for 2030. We need to establish the conditions that will facilitate putting an end to nuclear tests and achieve a world free of nuclear weapons. Thank you.
I thank the Vice Minister of Multilateral Affairs and Cooperation of Panama for a statement. Now I would like to give the floor to the distinguished representative of the Netherlands, Excellency Tejas van der Plas, Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs. Excellency, you have the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, today marks a day that calls for celebration as well as a moment to reflect on serious concerns. Celebration because we note that it has been 25 years since the presentation of the draft Ctbto. In 1996, Dutch Ambassador Ramaker served as the chairman of the Ctbto negotiations. He is now 81 years old and he hopes to see the Ctbto enter into force during his lifetime. The Netherlands is a stalwart supporter of the treaty. It is a cornerstone of the international non-proliferation and disarmament regime. The treaty makes it increasingly difficult for states to obtain and further develop nuclear weapons, ultimately leading to a nuclear weapon-free world. A further cause for celebration is the fact that over the course of 25 years, the Preparatory Commission has fully developed and prepared the organization for its future work, despite the fact that the treaty is still not in force. I would like to commend the organization for that. The organization can take pride in the fact that the International Monitoring System swiftly detected those tests that were conducted. The advanced system of verification ensures that no nuclear test can evade the eyes and ears of the international community. The Netherlands remains a proud contributor to the IMS. Another reason for celebration is the fact that the Ctbto continues to welcome new members in its midst, with Cuba being the latest signatory state and the Comoros the latest member state. However, there is also reason for concern. 25 years after its presentation, the treaty has still not entered into force. We urge the Annex II states to sign and ratify the treaty. A final concern is the increasingly polarized discussion at the PrepCon, which distracts from the organization's important technical mission. But the Netherlands remains optimistic and forward-looking. At every opportunity, we will urge those states that have not yet done so to sign and ratify the Ctbto. In the meantime, we urge these states to uphold the nuclear test moratorium. We will continue to support Executive Secretary Rob Floyd and his organization in their mission and in working towards a world free from nuclear weapons. Thank you very much.
I thank the Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Netherlands for his statement. And now I would like to give the floor to the distinguished representative of Thailand, Excellency Vijayavat Isara Pagadi, Vice Minister for Foreign Affairs. Excellency, you have the floor.
Mr. Secretary General, Co-Presidents, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. This year marks the 25th anniversary of a historic moment for nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation, with the opening for signature of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, or Ctbt. 25 years on, the Ctbt has gained almost universal acceptance, with Thailand also joining and doing our part. The verification mechanism has been readily established, including the International Monitoring System, with 302 certified monitoring stations situated globally two of which Thailand proudly hosts. The Ctbto Preparatory Commission is also fully functioning to support the work of the treaty, with a new executive secretary at the helm. Along with our active participation throughout the years, Thailand was honored that the Thai State Audit Office served as the Ctbto external auditor for the terms 2018 to 2019 and 2020 to 2021. Co-presidents, the 25th anniversary is a cause for celebration. Yet at the same time, it reminds us that the treaty has yet to enter into force and become operative as an internationally legally binding instrument. We will therefore have to do more in order to facilitate the entry into force of this historic treaty. In this connection, Thailand is joining other countries in a call for the 8 remaining Annex II states to ratify the treaty without delay. Given the current geopolitical circumstances, such action is more crucial than ever. Their participation can indeed change the course of history for nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation. Together with efforts in other disarmament frameworks, including the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, which entered into force earlier this year, the long overdue entry into force of the Ctbt is key to the achievement of a nuclear weapon-free world, which all of us jointly strive to realize. Such achievement would not only allow us to uphold the purposes and principles of the United Nations in maintaining international peace and security, but also mitigate the risks and humanitarian consequences that these cruel weapons impose upon any of us. As the depositary of the Treaty on the Southeast Asian Nuclear Weapon-Free Zone, otherwise known as SHONFES or the Bangkok Treaty, and as a state with a long-standing and firm commitment towards nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation, Thailand is conscious that it has a role to play in the whole process. We stand ready to work with all parties to achieve this common goal. I thank you.
I thank the Vice Minister for Foreign Affairs of Thailand for his statement, and now I'd like to give the floor to the distinguished representative of Estonia, Excellency Rain Tammsaar, Deputy Foreign Minister. Excellency, you have the floor.
Distinguished co-presidents, dear colleagues, Estonia aligns itself with a statement of the European Union. In addition, I would like to make some comments in our national capacity. The United Nations General Assembly adopted the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty on 10 September 1996. 25 years later, 170 states have ratified the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, and 15 states have signed but not ratified it. There are still 8 Annex II states remaining. Those ratifications are needed for the treaty to come into effect. The Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty is important because it prohibits nuclear weapon test explosions, as well as other nuclear explosions underground, underwater, and in the atmosphere. Since 1945, more than 2,000 nuclear tests have been carried out around the globe. This has affected both the people and the environment, not to mention the effects on the social and economic development. Therefore, the entry into force of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty is in all of our interest. It is especially relevant in the context of an increased geopolitical power competition and the systemic erosion of rules and treaty-based international security order. Estonia supports all international efforts towards the entry into force of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty and urges all states, particularly the Annex II states, to sign and ratify the treaty without further delay. The upcoming review conference of the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons serves a perfect occasion to this end. The Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty is already a success story. Its verification regime and the effective work of the international monitoring system make sure that no nuclear explosion goes undetected, enabling the international community to respond appropriately and deter non-compliance. We call on all states to abide by a moratorium on nuclear weapon test explosions or any other nuclear explosions, and to refrain from actions that would undermine the objectives of the treaty. Thank you very much.
I thank the Deputy Foreign Minister of Estonia for his statement. Now I would like to give the floor to the distinguished representative of Mexico, Excellency Martha Delgado Peralta, Vice Minister for Multilateral Affairs and Human Rights. Excellency, you have the floor.
Hola a todas y todos.
Greetings to you all. I'm Martha Delgado, Vice Minister for Multilateral Affairs and Human Rights at the Mexican Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Esteemed co-presidents, Mexico is participating in this conference on Article 14 of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, fully convinced that there is an urgent need to renew our strategy and redouble efforts to achieve the entry into force of this treaty. Mexico hails the leadership of Italy and South Africa in leading the preparatory work for this anniversary conference. Distinguished co-presidents, 25 years on from its opening for signing, the contribution of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty to the nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation regime is undeniable. The treaty has been key to achieving an almost universal observance of a nuclear test moratorium. The support of the international community for the treaty is clear. To date, 185 states have signed it and 170 states have ratified it. In this regard, Mexico welcomes the fact that, since the last conference, Cuba and the Union of Comoros have deposited their instruments of ratification. This is a significant step towards achieving universalization of the treaty. Nonetheless, my country is concerned by the growing challenges faced by the multilateral system and the international nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation architecture. Challenges in the area of international security cannot be used as an excuse to challenge the value of this architecture. The unacceptable humanitarian impact of any nuclear detonation requires us to redouble our efforts in this area. Mexico rejects and categorically condemns any nuclear test carried out by any state anywhere. In addition, Mexico reaffirms that all states should refrain from carrying out nuclear tests, other nuclear explosions, or any other non-explosive test, including subcritical tests and those carried out with supercomputers in order to improve nuclear weapons. These run counter to the spirit and the letter of the treaty and diminish its value as a measure to achieve nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation. For this reason, our country urges states which have ratified the treaty and state signatories to take measures with renewed energy to achieve entry into force of the treaty. The goal is to establish a robust norm of international law against nuclear testing. In addition, we invite the 8 states on Annex II to ratify the treaty so that it achieves universalization. Undoubtedly, this treaty will underpin peace and security for the benefit of all our peoples. Mexico will use all relevant multilateral fora to promote the entry into force and respect for this treaty, including as we carry out our obligations as a state party to the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, the Treaty of Tlatelolco, and the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, which entered into force in January of 2021. Furthermore, Mexico will promote the resolution on the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, which will be submitted for the consideration of the First Committee of the United Nations. In addition, our country is fully convinced of the importance of strengthening the verification regime of the treaty by achieving the reliable and full functioning of the international monitoring system, the International Data Center, and on-site inspections. Mexico will continue contributing to the functioning of the international monitoring system by means of 1 radionuclide station, 1 hydroacoustic station, and 3 auxiliary seismic stations. To conclude, I would like to issue a call to use the milestone of this 25th anniversary of the opening for signing of the treaty, as well as the new leadership of the organization, to renew strategies and to collaborate more closely with civil society organizations, while also investing in education so that future generations enjoy peace and disarmament. To this end, we must redouble our efforts to achieve the entry into force and universalization of this treaty. Thank you.
I thank the Vice Minister for Multilateral Affairs and Human Rights of Mexico for her statement. And I would like to give the floor to the distinguished representative of Albania, Excellency Megi Feino, Deputy Minister for Europe and Foreign Affairs. Excellency, you have the floor.
Distinguished co-presidents, the effective multilateralism, prevention of weapons of mass destruction, and international cooperation are the 3 main pillars of our work. In this context, we promote universal adherence to and full implementation of all non-proliferation and disarmament treaties and conventions, in particular, the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons. We echo the calling for the universalization of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty and its entry into force, being constantly co-sponsors of the resolutions to convene the Ctbto conference in order to speed up its process of signatory and ratified states, which remains an indispensable contribution towards the world's peace and security. We also consider the need for an immediate start of negotiations and conclusion on a fissile material cutoff treaty. Albania supports the disarmament agenda, including instruments such as arms control, non-proliferation, restrictions, confidence building measures, and even elimination, but without accepting the nuclear weapons ban treaty. In close cooperation and coordination with other relevant actors like UN, EU, and NATO partners, Albania will continue to work to stop the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction and their means of delivery. The nuclear security and combating the illicit trafficking of nuclear and radioactive materials is of high importance for Albania. As a participating state of the International Atomic Energy Agency's illicit trafficking database, and at the same time, as part of the global plan of the International Atomic Energy Agency to fight against nuclear terrorism. We have a comprehensive safeguard agreement with the International Atomic Energy Agency, whose role on non-proliferation regime is indispensable, and we also have signed and ratified the additional protocol. We strongly support a sustained implementation of UN Security Council Resolution 1540 regarding the prevention of the proliferation of nuclear, chemical, or biological weapons and their means of delivery. The risk of terrorists or other non-state actors acquiring weapons of mass destruction remains a real and serious threat to international security. We believe that 1540 resolution is a very valuable instrument that provides guidance to member states in taking all necessary measures to prevent non-state actors from acquiring nuclear, chemical, biological, or radiological weapons or the equipment necessary for their production. Albania has approved a national strategy and an action plan to counter the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction, and it is a proactive contributor to the regional security concerning the WMDs. We remain firmly committed to fulfill our engagements in enforcing the international and EU standards with regard to the fighting against the trafficking of conventional weapons. aiming to establish international standards in addressing arms control issues in line with the provisions of the Arms Trade Treaty. In July 2019, a new law was adopted by the Albanian Parliament. In the last few years, 3 important laws on weapons, civilian use of explosives, and pyrotechnics were amended. Albania does not produce, store, or transport nuclear, biological, chemical weapons, or similar devices, and does not provide any form of support and/or assistance to the non-state actors that attempt to develop, acquire, manufacture, possess, transfer, or use the weapons of mass destruction. Albania aligns with the EU on advocating the Ctbt's prompt entry into force and universalization in international fora, including at the upcoming review conference on the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, and with third countries that have not yet signed or ratified the treaty. At the same time, our country stands beside EU, which dedicates the utmost importance to the extension of New START. We recall that under Article 6 of the NPT, all parties to the treaty, including nuclear weapon states and non-nuclear weapon states, have committed themselves to pursuing negotiations in good faith on effective measures relating to cessation of the nuclear arms race at an early date and to nuclear disarmament, and on a treaty on general and complete disarmament under strict and effective international control. This is related to the Geneva Dialogue on Nuclear Disarmament Verification and its latest conclusions of the meeting held last year. As an elected non-permanent member to the Security Council of the UN for the period 2022-2023, after a challenging but successful 2020 OSCE chairmanship, Albania intends to contribute to the preservation and strengthening of the multilateral, rule-based order by addressing global challenges and promoting peace and security through resolution of current crises, peaceful conflict settlement, and through disarmament policies. Thank you for your kind attention.
I thank the Deputy Minister for Europe and Foreign Affairs of Albania for her statement. Now I would like to give the floor to the distinguished representative of Canada, Excellency Mr. Dan Costello, Deputy Minister of International Security. Excellency, you have the floor.
Chers collègues, bonjour.
Distinguished colleagues, allow me firstly to commend the work of Italy and South Africa, who are presiding over the 12th Article 14 conference today. Canada also warmly welcomes Dr. Robert Floyd as he assumes the post of Executive Secretary. Although we are happy to promote the treaty today, we look forward to the day when its entry into force will mean that these meetings do not have to be held. Canada is as committed to a world free of nuclear tests as it was 25 years ago when the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty was opened for signature. We are pleased that the list of member states of the Ctbt continues to grow. In particular, we welcome the Union of Comoros and Cuba, who have joined the treaty since our last meeting in 2019. 25 years on, the treaty remains of the utmost importance. Not only does it bring us closer to ending devastating nuclear tests, but it also advances international peace and security.
It's very important to recognize the Ctbt organization and its immense contributions to nuclear non-proliferation. The Ctbt International Monitoring System has detected every nuclear test that has taken place in this century. Canada is very pleased to host 16 operational IMS stations and laboratories. Canada also works actively to strengthen the system's verification capabilities in other countries. For example, in Kazakhstan, where we are working together to construct a radionuclide detection station. The Ctbt organization has identified nuclear testing in only one state, North Korea, where nuclear tests continue to threaten international and regional security. A diplomatic solution to the nuclear crisis in North Korea is essential, and it is possible. We reiterate our call on North Korea to abandon its nuclear program. Close cooperation with allies and partners will be key to making this a reality. Unfortunately, the Ctbt International Monitoring System and the on-site inspection capabilities can only fully verify countries' compliance with the treaty once the treaty enters into force. This is why Canada urges Annex II states that have not yet done so to ratify the Ctbt as soon as possible. This will ensure the complete prohibition of nuclear testing for the next 25 years. The treaty plays an essential role in the international nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation architecture. The CTBTO and the international community can count on Canada's steadfast support. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you and have a nice evening.
I thank the Deputy Minister for International Security of Canada for his statement, and I would like to give the floor to the distinguished representative of the Republic of Korea, Excellency Sang-wook Ham, Deputy Minister for Multilateral and Global Affairs. Excellency, you have the floor.
Co-Presidents and Excellencies, it is a great privilege for me to address this year's conference on facilitating the entry into force of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty on the eve of the 25th anniversary of the Ctbt's opening for signature. I extend sincere congratulations to the co-presidents and, of course, our new Executive Secretary of the Ctbto, Dr. Robert Floyd. We have every confidence that his extensive experience and able leadership will guide us well in making meaningful progress toward a world without nuclear weapons. Excellencies, the Ctbt norms have served as one of the most effective measures to strengthen the international non-proliferation and disarmament regime. The total prohibition of nuclear weapons tests helped curb not only the horizontal spread of atomic weapons, but also their vertical proliferation. However, the sheer fact that the Ctbt remains in fragile legal limbo is a stark reminder of the work before us. Our commitment must be translated into a legally binding obligation of the international community, and we need to do so without further ado. Despite the persistent challenges, the state signatories and the Ctbto have shown remarkable ingenuity in keeping the objective and purpose of the treaty. Furthermore, 92% of what will be the international monitoring system has already been installed and running, showing once again our determination to uphold the Ctbt norms. In the meantime, as the IMS has been operating provisionally for the past quarter century, we have witnessed emerging challenges to the sustainability of the monitoring and verification systems. It is evident that it is only through the treaty's entry into force, effective engagement, and support of the state signatories that we can adequately respond to them. Finally, the complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula remains one of the most prominent challenges in our efforts to uphold the global non-proliferation regime. My government is committed to turning the Korean Peninsula into a land of peace, free from nuclear weapons and threats. However, the rift created by decades of distrust, lack of communication, and scarce cooperation experience can hardly be healed overnight. It is naturally requires strong political will, dedication, patience, and the unwavering support of the international community. In the course, we count on the steadfast support of the state signatories and the Ctbto. Co-presidents and excellencies, we gathered again to renew our commitment to the Ctbt and its objectives. The Republic of Korea will continue to work together with all state signatories for the entry into force and universalization of the treaty and to ensure the effectiveness of the verification regime. I thank you very much.
I thank the Deputy Minister for Multilateral and Global Affairs of the Republic of Korea for his statement. Now I would like to give the floor to the distinguished representative of Slovakia, Her Excellency Ingrid Prokova, State Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign and European Affairs. Excellency, you have the floor.
Dear co-presidents, ladies and gentlemen,
Let me congratulate first the co-presidents to your election to steer this conference. You have Slovakia's full support in your efforts to bring us closer to the entry into force of the Ctbt, especially at the time of its 25th anniversary. I also congratulate Dr. Robert Floyd on his appointment as the Executive Secretary of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Organization. Slovakia fully associates itself with the statement delivered by the European Union. At the same time, I would like also to make additional remarks in my national capacity. Dear co-presidents, ladies and gentlemen, since our last conference in 2019, the Ctbt family has grown by 2 more ratifying states. Slovakia welcomes decisions of Cuba and Comoros to join and bring us closer to our common objective. Weapons of mass destruction continue to be the greatest immediate threat to humanity in both scale and consequences. Collective measures to enhance security and promote sustainable development has been always the highest importance. The Ctbt and the Non-Proliferation Treaty are key components of the nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation architecture. They both reinforce global peace and security through deterring the proliferation of nuclear weapons. Slovakia again calls upon all states, especially the remaining Annex II countries that have not signed or ratified the treaty, to do so without further delay. Slovakia especially sees great importance in organizations' robust monitoring and verification system, a unique instrument for detecting undesirable nuclear activities. Nevertheless, without a legally binding treaty, a global nuclear test moratorium remains only a fragile concept. Dear co-presidents, ladies and gentlemen, since the beginning, Slovakia has consistently supported the work of the Provisional Technical Secretariat of the Preparatory Commission, particularly through the agreement between the government of Slovakia and the Preparatory Commission on cooperation related to on-site inspections. In 2020, 2 major on-site inspection build-up exercises were planned to be conducted in Slovakia. Unfortunately, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, they had to be postponed and subsequently cancelled. Nevertheless, our cooperation has not stopped here. We would like to declare the readiness and strong will of Slovakia to continue contributing to the implementation of the envisaged on-site inspections activities, in particular by hosting the regional introductory course of Eastern Europe, envisaged to take place in 2023. Thank you.
I thank the State Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and European Affairs of Slovakia for a statement, and now I would like to give the floor to the distinguished representative of the United States of America, Excellency Bonnie Jenkins, Under Secretary for Arms Controls and International Security. Excellency, you have the floor.
Secretary General, distinguished co-presidents, Executive Secretary Floyd, Director General Grossi, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for convening this important meeting today. As with so many things over this past year and a half, we continue to find creative and flexible means to accomplish the critical work required to advance the cause of nuclear disarmament. As many of you know, President Biden has long been a supporter of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, or Ctbt, from his time in the Senate, leading the ratification effort during the Clinton administration, through his 8 years as Vice President in the Obama administration. He continues to see it as a key priority that serves the national security interests of the United States. I have my own connection to the Ctbt, as I was one of the 2 U.S. lawyers part of the negotiations for the treaty, and also attended the first meetings of the Ctbto Preparatory Commission. I want to make clear right from the start, the United States supports the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty and is committed to work to achieve its entry into force. We recognize the significant challenges that lie ahead in reaching this goal. Challenges that include securing ratifications from all the remaining Annex II states, some of whom have not even signed the treaty. This is no easy task. It is important to remember that no one country can make entry into force happen on its own. Within the United States, we recognize that securing the advice and consent of the U.S. Senate to ratification will require deliberate outreach and education to ensure that the benefits of an entry into force CTBT are clearly understood by all. An enforced CTBT would hinder efforts of states parties that do not have nuclear weapons expertise and prior testing experience from embarking on a nuclear weapons program. It would also provide reassurance among states parties that such programs are not being developed. An enforced CTBT could discourage states from pursuing even more advanced nuclear weapons that will require testing, thus militating against dangerous arms races. Our ability to monitor and verify compliance with the treaty is also stronger than it has ever been. 25 years ago, the International Monitoring System, or IMS, the heart of the verification regime, existed only on paper. Today, it is nearly complete, technically advanced, global network of sensors, including 35 stations in the United States, that can detect even relatively low-yield nuclear explosions in any environment on Earth. It is more important than ever for all signatory states to help complete this system and provide for its long-term sustainment. While statements of support are welcome and necessary, such statements are no substitute for tangible resources and the requisite financial and technical expertise. That means signatory states must support the work of the Ctbto Preparatory Commission to complete the treaty's verification regime by paying their assessed contributions and participating in the important work of the PrepCon. The IMS, along with the International Data Center and the on-site inspection capability that is under development, comprise a formidable regime for the detection and analysis of nuclear explosions, which will provide states parties with the tools and information required to make critical verification decisions following the entry into force of the treaty. This fact has been repeatedly made clear as the IMS successfully detected and reported on the series of 6 nuclear explosions tests conducted by the DPRK since 2006. In other words, an enforced CTBT is good for the security of the United States, and it is good for the security of all states. It is a key step to diminishing the world's reliance on nuclear weapons and reducing the risk of another nuclear arms race. Maintaining the status quo in which states have no treaty obligation to refrain from conducting explosive nuclear tests across all environments serves nobody's interests. Finally, Excellencies, I want to reiterate that in line with the goals of the CTBT, the United States continues to observe its zero-yield test explosive moratorium and calls on all states possessing nuclear weapons to declare or maintain such a moratorium. Maintaining the international norm against nuclear explosive testing remains in the United States' interest and in the interest of all states. The Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty is not an abstract concept for a theoretical world. It is a firm and certain step towards peace, towards region, and towards security for our own citizens and all the peoples of the world. Thank you very much.
I thank the Undersecretary for Arms Control and International Security of the United States of America for a statement, and now I would like to give the floor to the distinguished representative of Latvia, Excellency Andrijs Velumsuns, Undersecretary of State of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Excellency, you have the floor.
Distinguished co-presidents, Latvia would like to congratulate Italy and South Africa on the assumption of the presidency of this conference and thank the outgoing presidency of Germany and Algeria. I express Latvia's gratitude to the UN for convening this conference and to the Ctbto Secretariat for their vital work in these challenging times. Latvia fully aligns with the statement of the EU and wants to deliver the following remarks in a national capacity. As the international security climate grows more tense, the CTBT plays an ever more important role. It serves as an indispensable safeguard to the international rules-based order, and during the last 25 years, it has achieved much to be proud of. Therefore, we support the Ctbto verification regime and its global system of monitoring stations. It has demonstrated that Ctbto can provide clear and reliable data which no single country alone can produce. It provides a unique resource to the international community by ensuring that no nuclear test goes unnoticed, thereby strengthening the global non-proliferation and disarmament regime, as well as allows for potential civilian and scientific uses. In this regard, Latvia condemns the tests conducted by the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. They serve as an unpleasant reminder that more work remains for the treaty to enter into force. Latvia strongly urges the DPRK to sign and ratify the CTBT without delay. The anniversary of both the CTBT and recently the NPT should be used as a springboard for renewed efforts and activities in order to progress towards a safer world for future generations. The CTBT is a prime example of what can be achieved by objective professionalism, international cooperation, and responsible conduct, even though in some ways its potential is still largely untapped. Thus, we continue to urge all states that have not done yet so far to join the overwhelming international consensus against nuclear testing. We call on the remaining states to accede to and ratify the treaty, in particular the remaining Annex II countries. Voluntary national moratoriums are valuable. However, they cannot substitute the full weight of universally subscribed to treaty. The CTBT is an essential tool for advancing nuclear disarmament that would eventually bring us closer to our ultimate goal, a world without nuclear weapons. Therefore, once again, we appeal to all states to make the utmost effort to advance the entry into force of the CTBT, taking a step towards peace and security for all. Thank you.
I thank the Under-Secretary of State of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Latvia for his statement, and now I would like to give the floor to the distinguished representative of Argentina, Excellency Claudia Rosenchayvik, Assistant Secretary of Foreign Affairs. Excellency, you have the floor.
Señores copresidentes,
esteemed co-presidents, ladies and gentlemen, the conference that brings us here today occupies a special place in the context of the efforts of the international community to achieve nuclear non-proliferation. The CTBT is a key piece of the global international security architecture. It is also a key tool for advancing towards the ultimate objective of nuclear disarmament. With regard to the work of the conference, Argentina wishes to highlight the work undertaken by the outgoing co-presidents, Germany and Algeria, and we wish also to welcome South Africa and Italy as new co-presidents. We acknowledge their efforts in ensuring the success of this conference. Esteemed co-presidents, in 2021 we are marking 25 years since the treaty was opened for signing. This invites us to think about the importance for the international community of the early entry into force of this instrument. At this conference, we are celebrating having reached 170 ratifications with the decision taken by Cuba and the Union of Comoros. However, it has still not been possible to reach the number of ratifications stipulated in the treaty with regard to Annex II. I would like to highlight that the Republic of Argentina believes that the entry into force of the CTBT and its universalization are key steps towards preserving the credibility of the global non-proliferation system. The CTBT is a key tool when it comes to limiting the production and modernization of existing nuclear weapons, as well as the development of new prototypes. However, for as long as it is not entered into force, there will be no legally binding instrument that prohibits all of these tests. It was against this backdrop that the Republic of Argentina was one of the first states to sign and ratify the treaty in 1996, thereby becoming a force for the promotion in all relevant fora of the need for the early entry into force of the treaty without preconditions of any kind. Esteemed co-presidents, Argentina welcomes the high level of completion of the international monitoring system. 92.5% of its stations are installed. The global effectiveness of this system significantly reduces the likelihood of any country being able to carry out secret tests behind the back of the international community. Therefore, the huge political, legal and economic efforts deployed must be rewarded by entry into force of this instrument. Currently, Argentina has 7 certified stations and 1 radionuclide laboratory in operation, while the last of the promised stations is being constructed and will soon be completed. For Argentina, the contribution offered by the international monitoring system to civil and scientific applications is clear. An evident demonstration of this was the assistance provided by the Provisional Technical Secretariat to provide clarifications with regard to the incident involving the Ara San Juan submarine in 2017 and to support search activities. Argentina once again takes this opportunity to reiterate its deep gratitude for the efforts undertaken by the Ctbto in searching for the submarine and for the continued collaboration provided through the Argentine Embassy in Vienna. Co-presidents, to conclude, I wish to highlight that Argentina will preside over the next review conference of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty in 2022. The adoption and entry into force of the Ctbt was one of the decisions which enabled the indefinite extension of the NPT in 1995. That is why Argentina firmly believes that the early entry into force of this treaty must continue to be a central theme of the review conference and the related preparatory work. We hope that we can count on the support of all state signatories in this regard. Thank you all.
I thank the Assistant Secretary of Foreign Affairs of Argentina for his statement. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it is now closer to 9:30, our cutoff time. But before we adjourn, I understand that the distinguished delegate of Armenia has requested the floor to exercise his right of reply. Please note that pursuant to our rules, Rule 21 of the rules of procedure, the right of reply is limited to 3 minutes. And I will now give the floor to the representative of Armenia to exercise her right. Madam, you have the floor.
Thank you, distinguished co-presidents. Since this is the first time that the Armenian delegation takes the floor during the conference, I would like to first congratulate Italy and South Africa on assuming the co-presidency of the conference and thank the outgoing co-presidents Germany and Algeria for their efforts aimed to promote the entry into force of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. Mr. Co-President, it was not our intention to take the floor, but we were compelled to exercise our right of reply to respond to the allegations against my country made by the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Azerbaijan, which we resolutely reject. We regret that this forum has been used by the Foreign Minister of Azerbaijan in an attempt to make allegations and claims in an attempt to cover up the use of Azerbaijan itself of ballistic missiles against the civilian infrastructure of Armenia, which is well documented and has been presented by Armenia to relevant international structures and bodies. We also noted with concern the reference of the Foreign Minister of Azerbaijan to the possibility of using of the verification system of the Ctbto for the purposes and goals not related to the mandate of this organization and for promoting narrow political narratives. This is the matter of grave importance for Armenia, and we will follow up on this issue with the PTS and interested member states in order to make sure that the monitoring and verification system of the Ctbto is not abused by the malign actors. I thank you, distinguished co-president.
The statement is noted, and we thank the representative of Armenia for the statement. Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the cut-off time of our meeting, and we will resume at 3 p.m. Vienna time tomorrow and continue our deliberations under agenda item 8, which is the general exchange of views by ratifiers and signatories on facilitating the entry into force of the Ctbt. The meeting is now adjourned until tomorrow at 3 p.m. Vienna time. Have a very good night. Bye-bye.